Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Turtle and the Tiger. This is vlog number 47. Pima Air Museum. Why I love air museums. Stick around. So welcome back. So today I thought I'd give you a little overview of our experience at the Pima Air Museum in Tucson, Arizona. We are currently at a house sit in Phoenix. It's actually a repeat of a house sit that we actually did 3 weeks ago. We did a 4-week stint then. We're doing a 2-week stint now. Well, the first time when we left, we headed down to Organ Pipe National Monument. Really cool place. Going to be doing a video on that. But not yet, because we're going back again to get more stuff. So stick around for that later on. But after we left Organ Pipe National Monument, we headed over to Tucson. So what's in Tucson? Well, there were a lot of things I wanted to see, one of which was the Pima Air Museum, and possibly the Boneyard at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. Now, let's get into it, shall we? First of all, I've got some footage here, but I apologize in advance because the camera that I shot a lot of the footage, if not all of the footage with, is a great camera for stills, but seems to be a bit of a challenge for video, even though it was advertised as such. The Nikon D750, which is what I'm actually recording on now, seems to work really well with stationary subjects and manual focus, but you'll see when I try to use it going around of the museum, it constantly hunts for focusing and adjusting, and you get the servo, the focus servo motor noise in the background. It's sort of a pain in the neck, but I think some of the content is worth seeing, so we're going to go with it, but I do apologize for that technical difficulty during the video. So why the big hubbub about all these airplane museums? Well, like anything else, people have their kind of niches or their like interests. Mine happens to be aviation, because when I was growing up as a kid in East Haddam, Connecticut, we had a little private grass aircraft strip runway behind our house. And every weekend, this guy Henry Mazer would come up, and he had a Piper Super Cruiser and a J3 Cub in a small hangar on the runway. And I'd run up there, and he'd throw me in the back of the airplane. We'd go for a ride. I was doing that since like when I was 6 years old. And some, when I could reach the pedals, he'd, let me fly the airplane a little bit when it was flight. So you gotta, you're getting kind of immersed in it. Then there was this other guy, Henry Struck, who was this world-renowned model aviation champion and designer. He'd come up on like around dusk to trim some of his models, and I'd run up there and help him out and kind of stand around, be probably more of a pain in the ass than anything else. But oh wow, it was pretty cool, right? A kid in his, before he's even a teenager, gets exposed to full-size airplanes, model airplanes. What more could you ask for? The third guy, Dick Everett, which is in it itself is a real funny story that if you want to hear about it, I'll share at a different time, was my bus driver, and through some circumstances pulled me into the aero modeling hobby even deeper than Henry Struck, and got me into the construction and just started to pull me more into the hobby. I don't know if it was ADD or just hormones, but never really, solidly got into it until later on. But these three guys really had an influence over, how I see airplanes, and can't not look up every time one flies over, etc. You can always picture a guy in a crowd who's into airplanes, or a gal. Gals especially, I think, if they're into it, man, they're very passionate about it. So anyway, that's the whole deal behind an aviation museum. If we're close to one and I hear about one, I got to make tracks to it. How did it affect me later on in life? Well, I actually got my commercial pilot certificate later on. I started my own model rocketry company And so I was into model rocketry. I'm still into model aviation. It's, you know, even when we were down here, I went to the Southwestern Free Flight Model Championships down in Eloy. And I'll show you some pictures of that too, just so you can get an idea. That's pretty cool. And I'm going to leave a bunch of links down in the description. So if you're interested in any of this stuff, you can check it out. All right, let's get into the museum itself. So, two parts. Davis Monthan is the boneyard where all of the military aircraft go to die. Basically, it's a reclamation center where they try to recycle whatever they can for spare parts and, you know, things of that nature. They break them down for the recycling the metal, and also any of the parts that they are no longer made. We call what's called cannibalization. If you need a hydraulic pump for an aircraft and it's no longer made anywhere, then, you know, that's the place you go to see if they have one, that kind of deal. But it takes 10 days for a security clearance to go through to get into the place. And I thought it was only a couple, so we missed out on doing that. But we did get into the Pima Air Museum, which is right next to it. Now, the Pima Air Museum is open to the public. I'll put a link down below if you're ever in the Tucson area. It'll give you all the information in terms of costs and what the different levels of entry fees are. But very cool place. Couple of key notes: if you do go, and make sure if you're going in the summertime, just to know what the heat index is going to be like, because in July, Tucson, it can be pretty warm. But here, February, it was perfect. It was like in the high 70s, very dry, not a cloud in the sky, but you still got to carry plenty of water, plenty of sunscreen, wear a hat. If you want to take a parasol and umbrella, do so, because the sun's pretty intense here. Anyway, so you come in, you pay, and you walk through the first hangar, and right off the bat, you're hit with the Wright Flyer, which is it's just hanging right over the entrance as you walk in. You know, the beginning of flight, the beginning of your tour. How iconic is that? And I don't know if it's a replica or not, but if it is, they did a really great job, because I checked out all the little details, and for what I could see, everything was just spot on. You can go through that particular hangar. There's a lot to see in that hangar. That's, again, 2 or 3 days is not too much time to spend in this place. We couldn't even get into, as a matter of fact, there's another building within the property that houses the space portion of the Pima Air and Space Museum. That was actually closed. We never got to see that, but if you're in the Arizona area, you might want to slide up to New Mexico and check out the, I think it's called the History of Space Museum in Alamogordo, New Mexico. So that's where your space and other places you can get plenty of space stuff for. Also, another building on the property is a B-17 exhibit, which is privately owned. So even though you go into the Pima Air Museum, you're required to pay an additional fee to go into the B-17 building. So we didn't do that, because I've seen a few B-17s along the way. My concentration was more on the aircraft that I have never seen in person before. To begin with, let's see if I can remember them all. One of which was the B-58 Hustler. And I apologize, I'm going to go a little out of chronological order in terms of history. But the B-58 Hustler is one of my favorite aircraft. Not the favorite aircraft, but one of the favorite aircraft that, you know, as a kid growing up, that was sort of like the plastic model that kids would buy back in the 60s and 70s. It sort of had that, you know, that delta wing, and it really looks, the looks are timeless, pretty much. Couple other aircraft and some stories behind it are the B-47, I believe it's, and the B-36, which were part of a great movie, if you've never seen it before, with Jimmy Stewart. I can't remember the leading lady, though she reminds me of someone in my youth. I can't remember her name. Anyway, great movie, but the B-47 and the B-36 were a big part of that, called Strategic Air Command, SAC. But Jimmy Stewart plays a pilot in that, has a baseball player called back into the service just around the Cold War. So very cool movie. So that was really neat to see up close, and you know how enormous it was, and sort of the technology that must have been kind of back in the day, and how the landing gear technology, the skin technology, the combination of using the jets and recips in terms of power. Very cool. Another aircraft that really caught my eye was the KC-97. I've never seen one of those up close. A Globemaster, I've never seen one of those up close. There's a great book called Old Shaky out there. It's a super book for any of you guys that were in MAC, Military Airlift Command, even anybody that likes old 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s aircraft stories. It's really good. Old Shaky. I'll put a picture of that in here so you can kind of see the book on that. Those are great. A couple of 130s that were in there. I saw that, you know, that was my first assignment at Westover Air Force Base when I went there as a crew chief assistant. What else? So I think the B-52, they have two great B-52 examples there. I think a 65 and a 68. The 65 had the tall vertical stab on it, and then the 68 had the shorter version of it, I believe. I might have gotten them flipped, but very great examples. And these are huge, heavy aircraft on display that you could just walk around, walk under them, around them. I don't know if they do any cockpit walkthroughs during the year. We didn't see any there while we were there, but inside the hangar there's a few, like an F4. There's an F4 inside the hangar. I know my buddy Larry's gonna like that. There was an F4 Phantom, and they're a really good example of it that you could get up and sort of look in the front and the rear seat of the F4. A couple of Wacos in there, just beautifully done. Just so much to look at in there, and I just really feel like if you're even a couple hundred miles within, you know, distance within from the museum, you gotta get to this place. It's pretty cool. No school today. Oh, she's going to the restroom, I guess. Oh wow, I haven't seen one of these in a while. All right, so that pretty much wraps up the museum. We stayed at a great campground nearby that we use sort of as a stepping off point. Well, we're going to do things like the Biosphere. We're going to talk about that. The Biosphere 2, which I'll put in a video coming up pretty soon, and some other things. So if you like the video, don't forget to hit the like button down there. Don't forget to share the video. It's real important. If you just hit the share button, share it on your Facebook page, share it on Instagram or whatever. I love the exposure. I'm trying to get a little money back from this. I don't get any money from advertising right now, but I need 1,000 people and I need 6,000 hours on the videos. I'm kind of getting there. So any sharing, subscribing, and whatever not helps. And so till next time, thanks for watching. Take care, stay safe, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.